Hello again, my friends. In the last episode, we drove 500 kilometers through Germany to Amsterdam, and in this video, we'll take a closer look at some of what this city has to offer. We'll check out the red light district, go on a boat cruise, and of course drive around on bikes, as that seems to be the method of transportation here. But first, it was time for us to grab some food. We jumped on a couple of rental bikes from the hotel and then headed towards a place called Foodhallen, which came recommended from another YouTube video. We had a couple of amazing tasting tacos with a couple of beers, and then also added some well-seasoned chicken wings. We then tried a plate of grilled barbecue meat, and of course a couple of new beers. Again, we added 2 more beers, and tried something called bitterballen, which is a popular Dutch snack consisting of small, deep-fried meatball-like croquettes. Hopefully without upsetting any Dutch people watching, but none of us found these to be particularly good tasting. Sorry, fellas. These deep-fried seafood snacks, however, with a couple of glasses of wine, were actually really good. Being a little buzzed from the alcohol, and with a full stomach, it was time to head back to the red light district.
We can do better. We could be chasing dreams. We know what's right, and we know how it feels. Yeah, we can do better. We can make a change for real.
The first thing you notice in the red light district is the overwhelming smell of marijuana. It absolutely reeks. That's probably the one thing that surprised me the most. There's not much else to say, really. It's one of those areas that you must cross off the list of going to Amsterdam, but it's not really anything I'd recommend beyond taking a quick scroll through. The main attraction here, I guess, are the window girls and the red-lighted rooms they occupy. It was quite strange to see at first, and I do wonder how frequently these girls have customers. We enjoyed a couple of drinks in a bar here, and over the course of an hour, we didn't see a single person walk into the girls across. I suppose it all being very public isn't really something a customer of this sort of business finds ideal. The night ended with a couple of pizza slices on the way back to the hotel, and I suppose that was our red light district experience. After a good night's sleep, we then enjoyed a healthy breakfast in this magnificent hall at the hotel. The food was excellent, but the service was a bit odd. Enough food vlogging though, it was time to get back on the bikes and explore some more of Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a city defined by water, and its historic centre is laced with a network of canals, giving the city its distinctive charm. To the north, across the IJ River, lies a quieter side of Amsterdam. Less crowded, more relaxed. Getting there is easy and free, thanks to the public ferries that run continuously from behind the central station. On this northern side, you'll find a different atmosphere, along with a few standout attractions like the Amsterdam Lookout, offering panoramic views of the entire city from above. The views are absolutely amazing, especially on a clear day like it was that day. I couldn't help but imagine how cool it would be to live up here in a large penthouse apartment with these 360 degrees views of the city. The €18 entry was quite expensive for just going on the top floor of a building, but for these views, I'd still say it's worth it. From up here you can really see how Amsterdam is so much more than just the red light district. Speaking of which, just have a look at how dirty it was still at 11 in the morning. And of course there was still an overwhelming smell of marijuana lingering in the air, not really very pleasant. It was quite fun to experience yesterday, but I must say that it quickly gets to be too much. With a bit of incognito filming, and for anyone wondering, you can see that even at noon the red rooms are still open for business. What seemed like a tourist attraction yesterday just felt really sad in the light of day. To cheer ourselves up again, we decided to go on a tourist boat ride to learn a bit more about the city while enjoying the views down from the canals. The city began as a small fishing village in the late 12th century, built around a dam in the Amstel River, hence the name Amsterdam. As the city grew, especially during the Dutch Golden Age in the 17th century, an elaborate canal system was developed, both to manage flooding and to facilitate trade. These canals gave the city its iconic layout and continue to define its beauty and function today. Then there are the houseboats, another iconic feature of Amsterdam's canals. These began appearing after World War II, when housing shortages led people to convert old cargo barges into homes. Over time, what started as a practical solution became a sought-after lifestyle. Today, there are around 2,500 official houseboats in the city, many connected to water, electricity, and sewer systems just like regular homes. Owning a houseboat in Amsterdam today is far from cheap. Prices range widely, but a well-located modern houseboat can easily cost upwards of €500,000. But we were told that in many cases, these are simply passed down to the next generation. With our sightseeing tour done and a busy schedule for tomorrow, it was time to head back to the Tesla and begin our 500-kilometre journey back again. First step was to navigate out of this tight parking garage, and then we have to go straight to a supercharger, as we're starting the trip with just 27% state of charge. I'll say one thing though, if I was living in Amsterdam, I'd probably choose to drive a small electric Fiat, as some of these squeezes were very tight. The garage also had plenty of paint markings on the walls from people getting a bit too close. And once again we had to first drive out of the busy area of Amsterdam. While people warned me about going here by car, I have to say it's not all that bad. Sure, there are a couple of wild cyclists, but I think the biggest problem for us was that people just don't hear you when you're driving an electric car. Especially this refreshed Model 3 that doesn't really make any noise when driving at low speeds. But yes, we needed to head to a supercharger first, and that's really one of those things that can make travelling electric a bit of a hassle. Granted, the hotel did offer destination charging. I just didn't want to deal with reparking the car to charge, and then again after charging go back and repark it once more somewhere else. Plus, I have some free supercharging miles on my Tesla account, which are only valid for Tesla superchargers, and I wanted to use those when charging. So as we're driving towards our first stop, I briefly want to thank Teslogic once more as a sponsor for this trip, as well as give my honest opinion on the device. As you may have noticed already, I have my smartphone with a second dashboard, and the way it works is really simple. Similar to the sexy buttons, the device is easily plugged into the car, and then you just open the Teslogic app on your phone. I know there are several other options for adding a second dashboard to your Tesla, but I do like the idea of it just being an app on your phone, as this is something that can easily push out new updates and features for the device. Personally, I did enjoy having a more in-depth access to the consumption data of the car, which the app offers, such as here, where the AC was running at full blast with 6 kilowatt, trying to cool the car after it having been in the sun for 15 minutes. Another interesting feature is the power meter, which shows exactly how much power you're generating. It's fun for checking peak horsepower, but also useful for seeing how much power is used during everyday driving. As a data nerd, I find these numbers a lot of fun to watch, but the main reason I'd buy the device is if I had a non-performance model. With Teslogic, you can disable traction control and even enable drift mode on the long-range all-wheel drive version. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you probably know I'm still a kid at heart, and drifting around in the snow is something I find endlessly fun. It was actually one of the deciding factors for me buying the performance version. With this device, I may just have gone for the all-wheel drive long range instead. It's also worth noting that the phone holder, which is attached with a sticker, comes off easily without leaving any residue, just in case anyone was worried about that. So yeah, if you're interested in this type of device, please do check the link in the description. And in case you wish to purchase one, there's a 10% discount available when using the code FENCH during checkout. Unfortunately, we didn't pay close enough attention to the route planner because these are V2 chargers, which means the charging power is shared between two cars parked side by side. Not exactly ideal when you roll in with a low battery, and we're hoping for a quick top up to 80%. As you see, the charging rate is limited by the charging station, and we're stuck charging with 80 kilowatts, whereas we'd normally charge with more than 200. And not only that, but we're also halving the guy's speed next to us. We decided to grab a bite to eat at Burger King, and 36 minutes later, we had charged up to 71%. With 71% in the batteries and 380 kilometers to go, we were suggested to make yet another charging stop. Unsure of the best strategy, we decided to drive at a faster average speed. For a 4-hour drive, we may have to use a restroom anyways, so we'd try and plan it with a charging stop. And already 1 hour later, here we were, with 20% left in the batteries. So we had pretty much depleted 50% of the batteries in just an hour. The Tesla route planner now calculated a 15-minute charge to drive 164 kilometers to the next supercharger. We stretched our legs for a short while, and then we were back on the autobahn again. I decided to ignore the warning of keeping a lower speed to reach the charger, as I knew there were a few other options in the area, so I figured let's just keep a higher speed. Even with more than 20,000 autobahn kilometers, I'm still never sure what the ideal strategy is, and I constantly alternate between driving slower without a charge or faster with a quick stop. This time, of course, we did have to make yet another charging stop, so let's try and calculate and see if it was worth driving faster and having done these additional charging stops. When we first left Amsterdam, it was 1:30 as we drove out of the parking garage. The estimated time of arrival was 7:30, so roughly 6 hours to drive 511 kilometers. Since we primarily drove at much higher speeds than what was used for the calculation, we ended up making a total of 3 charging stops. And take a guess at what the time of arrival was? Well, it was just a few minutes early of 7:30. So clearly, driving with faster speeds, having to make additional charging stops, doesn't really do anything for getting to your destination any faster. At least not when you're driving long distances like we did on this trip. What's interesting as well is that if after our first charging stop, we had kept our speed below 100, we could have made it home without any additional charging stops. If we say that our average speed would be 90 kph, then it would take us 4 hours and 16 minutes, meaning we would then arrive home at 8, so roughly half an hour later than we did. The question is though, would we have wanted to drive more than 4 hours straight without taking a bathroom break or without getting something to eat? Theoretically, I suppose yes, but in a real-world scenario, probably not. So the takeaway is this: driving at higher speeds in an electric car doesn't really save you much time on longer journeys. Sure, if you're just going on a short drive, feel free to put your foot down. But for a long road trip, the most efficient cruising speed is probably somewhere around 120. At least that was my takeaway from this little experiment. What do you think? And with our trip coming to an end, I just want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoy these kinds of road trip videos and learning more about travelling with an electric car, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again everyone, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Cheers!